Hi team and welcome. This session is for those of you adventurous enough to design your own documents inside your Xero. Before we get started, underneath this lesson you should find a couple of different documents. You're going to find, most importantly, a document designer guide. So go and open that up now because that's going to help you a lot when we get into designing your documents. We've also uploaded a few different sample documents that you can use as the basis, and that'll really speed up your document design process. So once you've got those opened up, let's crack on. So for those of you that want a bit more design freedom with your documents inside your Xero, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go to Settings and Invoice Settings. If you don't have it in your list there, click General Settings and then Invoice Settings. And while you're there, click the little star because we're going to be working with these for a little bit. So that'll make it a little bit quicker for you to access. So once you click on Invoice Settings, this will take us through to our overview page. So earlier we created two standard settings, and as you saw, there's a lot of pretty standard stuff we can go and edit easily. Now, the reason you're here is because this didn't do it for you. We want to go and customize this document right from the underlying Word document. So what we're going to do is we're going to click a new branding theme. Earlier we clicked standard, which gave us this all blue jay custom theme. This time we're going to click custom docx. We're going to give this a name. We're going to call it something like we already have custom, so it'll be all blue jay new design. Great. Now is a really good time to mention that, as you can see, we've got three different document designs now. I often get asked, how do we, my newest one I want to create, I'm going to want that to be the default, the one that people choose most frequently. So how do I make that the most frequent, the easiest to select? Because as you're creating your invoices, statements, etc., it's going to be at the bottom of your drop-down list. So you can fix that pretty quickly by clicking and dragging by the 2x3 grid and dropping that at the top like so. Beautiful, eh? Just as easy as that. So that's what I'd recommend doing now, because we're going to want this new document design to be the standard that people use. Now, let's open up that document designer guide I asked you to earlier. So here is one I've prepared. It should look a little something like this. Now, once you've read this from top to toe, you'll notice it's got some top tips. If you don't understand those just yet, don't worry, because we're going to be going through those. So underneath that, most importantly, is that it has a library. And what you'll notice about this library is that it has these fields with these funny brackets in it. And those are really important because this is the exact field name that matches up with that box or that bit of data inside your Xero. So for inside your Xero, you're going to have, on an invoice, for example, you'll have a contact name. And if you insert this using the correct method that I'm going to show you, then we need to insert that contact name just as it appears here into a document, and it's going to bring up that contact's name for that that document. So that's part of the magic, and these are really what we're working with to design our documents. Cool. All right. So now that we've got that open, what we want to do is we want to click download. So actually, correction. We will click download, and I'll show you what you get. So if you're starting with the sample documents we provided you, I highly recommend you do, because they're a good way to get going. Then you're not going to need to download some fresh ones. What we want to do though is we're going to upload the sample documents once we edit them back into our design here. So I'll show you from scratch and assume you haven't downloaded the sample documents. So we're going to open up our download here. Just open that one up. Here we go. I'll just copy that over to there we go. That's where I want it. Great. Cool. So I've got 4 documents in my desktop there. We'll start with an invoice. So let's open up what these documents look like at the moment, so before we edit them. If you open up any one of these documents, you'll notice that it looks like a regular invoice, but slightly different. All of the information that would otherwise be in this invoice has been replaced by these tags, right? If you click into them, you'll find they're not regular text. They are like a data tag, and they appear exactly as our document design guide is. I'll just make that a bit bigger for you. Here we go. So here's our these tags here match up exactly with what is inside our invoice template here. So our job is to swap out and replace some of these tags with what's in the library. And here's how we do that. So go through a few different examples. The first thing you're going to want to do is to insert your logo. And if you just wanted it up in the top right, then that's pretty easy to do. But one of the other things you'll notice is that most of the information that you're viewing is actually inside a table. And there's a reason for that. So information inside a table is less likely to be hidden. So if you've got floating text around your page, then it can get pushed around quite easily. But when it's inside a table, it doesn't, because the table stays fixed and expands as the information expands. So that's one of the reasons a lot of the stuff is inside a table, and I'd encourage you to keep it there if possible. So to display these tables, you can do something a bit like this and make these tables a bit more visible for yourself. There we go. Cool. So here's the table that my logo is sitting in. Excellent. And I'm going to insert my logo there by going to insert pictures. Picture from file sounds good. And in my desktop I have a Blue Jays logo. Brilliant. I don't want it that big, so I'm going to make it that big. So anything you could design on a Word document, you can design here within certain bounds. Great. So our invoice title, we might just want to say, I just want to hard code this to be a tax invoice, for example. And that means regardless of what the title of the invoice might be, it's always going to read tax invoice. So here's an example. So make that quite large, like so. Great. We've got invoice name. These are our headers and these are the underlying information. I might decide that account number, I don't really want that displaying on my invoices, so I'll remove that. That's as easy as it is. Cool. And organization tax display name, we'll just call that GST number. So this is an example of what we'd do to customize your invoices. Excellent. Cool. Here, this is another good example of something you'd hard code, so we can replace this just with exactly my postal address as I want it displayed. Okay. Contact tax number, we don't need to display that. Just the contact name and address. We might though want something like a ATTN, attention, in front of the contact name. So these are just examples of what we can do. So I'm removing stuff first, and I'm going to show you how to insert information in. So unit tax name, not something we're going to need on our invoices, so I'm just going to delete that out. Be wary when deleting rows, because as you can see, we have a row underneath that we do want to hold on to. So I'm just going to delete the information out of it to start off with, and then I'll merge the rows with, say, unit price here. So I'm going to go to table design and layout. Great. Cool. And I might decide that a unit price doesn't have to be so big, and I'll make that align a little bit better over this side. Okay. Now, fonts. Let's just make the whole lot one font. So I'm going to go with a, oops, not like that. Pick something, there we go, railway. Nice. And I'll hide that border now, because I don't need to. Great. Already that invoice is looking pretty good. Now, I might deal only in one currency, and it's a bit funny having a single currency, or just NZD at the end of all my invoices, so I can remove that out. If, however, I deal with lots of different currencies, that's something you're definitely going to want. Okay, so we've gone and removed a bunch of different fields now: description, quantity, unit price. I might decide to change unit price into rate if I'm a professional service, for example. So there's a lot of different things we can do. Excellent. Now, a real common one is right at the bottom here, registered office. You notice it's just floating really well hidden. Most people don't want this on their invoice, so we can go and delete that out, like so. Okay, now importantly, all the changes you make, you need to save. Save that somewhere safe, because it's likely we're going to do a few iterations of this. Okay, great. Now let's get into actually inserting information. So I'll show you what we can do. Let's find something suitable. In fact, I'll delete something and I'll insert it back in. So here's quantity. I'll make sure that's center aligned, and I'll give a bit more room to my description. Oops. There we go. No, not like that. Like that. No, not like that. Boy, I hate word tables. There we go. As you can see, word tables can be quite fussy. Ooh, gee. Command Z, Command or Control Z will undo everything you've done. So I might do that and insert a column to the left. That's a little bit safer, and then merge them. We'll try that, eh? There we go. That was a slightly better result. I'll merge those two. Cool, okay, cool. That was scary. All right, back on track. Okay, quantity unit price description. Now, so this quantity field, how do we insert these fields? Really good question. It's not so intuitive as you expect. A common mistake we see is that people will type quantity. All that's going to give you is the word quantity. So another common fault I see is that people will replace this word with something like quantity, or we would say unit amount, you know, and they think that writing in between the bracket will solve that problem because it blends right in, but underlying all that, Command F9, underlying all of that information, this is still the same. So if we toggle field codes like so, you'll see that it still actually reads as quantity. That's what it looks like underneath. So we'll toggle that back and rename that as quantity. So what you need to do to insert fields, there we go. Just we'll get rid of that field. To insert a field using a Mac or using a Mac at least, but it's very similar for a PC, is I'm going right up to the top of my screen, I'm going to click Insert, and what I want to insert is a field, like so. For if you're a PC user, it should be in your Word under Insert, Mail Merge Item, or Custom Auto Text, I think it might be called. But if you're a Mac user, this is what it should look like. So Mail Merge and Merge Field, that's what we're after. And inside the Merge Field, this is where we come to our library and we decide that I want to insert something like delivery phone into my quantity field, for example. And you notice I'm not able to do that because delivery phone can only be displayed on a purchase order, and I'm designing an invoice. So let's pick something a bit better. Let's go with a invoice number. Cool. Actually, I'll just stick with quantity here, but just Command F will search for you. That's how I get around this document. What we want to copy is just the information inside the brackets, okay? So don't copy the brackets themselves, they will apply themselves. So inside, after the word merge field here, you want to paste the word quantity or the field you want to insert and click OK, just like that. And if we toggle those field codes now, you can check that by making sure that that is changed. All right, so just go forward again and we'll toggle those back. So even if you don't toggle these back, these aren't going to print like that, obviously. It's just something to allow you to see the information that's in behind it. So that's how we insert fields into these custom fields. Now, I said anything you can do in a Word document, you can do in here, and that is the case. So something else we might want to do, just tidy that up a little bit. Remove our amount due. There we go. We'll make that one bold. And we'll call that just invoice. Actually, don't need net payments if I deleted that. Here we go. Cool, we'll just leave our invoice total and leave our payments to for our statements. Excellent, and I'll give that a row at the bottom. Bear with me a second. As you can see, this can be quite time consuming, but it's something you only really need to do once. So I'll make that color black, and I'll make it 1 point. Okay. Here we go. Success. Brilliant, that's more like what I want. Now inside this document you'll find these funny little tags that say table start and table end, table start line item, table start line item. That's really important not to remove these ones, because everything in between that table start and the table end line item means that part of the library that we provided, this is where the data is being pulled from. So you might find that quantity here appears in multiple locations, and this table is what's telling it that this is the line item quantity, not any other quantity we might have. Okay, so it's quite important that if you see those, you leave them as is. Now they don't actually print, obviously. Anything that's on it, they're like invisible. They display on the page we're looking at now, but when we go to print, they're not going to show. So you'll see what I mean when we go to print this document. So the last thing I'll do is I'm going to add a bit of Flair, and I'm going to stick with my Blue Jays blue, and I'm going to make my my header blue, and try to pick the closest thing we can. Blue. Ooh, that's not pretty, but I'm not a designer, so we'll stick with white. Here we go, white text. You get the idea. All right, now I'll make that centered, and we'll stick with that. I'll go left. Cool, just to tidy that up. Not beautiful, but that'll do. Okay. All right, so I think I've illustrated everything we really need to know about that. There are a few other minor points like this payment information here. If you're using payment services, you want to leave these alone, because these are the parts that insert that little Visa image into here and let people click on that so they can pay you easily. That's probably all I have to say about that. In terms of the footer, a real common fault I see is that people's footers will overlap with the text. One of the beauties of this is that with this table is that it will expand depending on how many lines you have on your invoice or your statement or your quote, purchase order, etc. So what you want to make sure is that down here, see how it in our ruler is actually below that of the payment advice. What we want is to bring our ruler up to the payment advice, and that makes sure that the payment advice always has enough room on it. So I'm going to bring that down. There we go. And we'll make sure that that sits right there. So no text will ever go below that dotted line. Now, payment advice is actually pretty old school. People don't tend to cut these off so much anymore and post them back like they used to. We tend to email our remittance advices. So if you can at all get away with ditching this, I'd recommend it if you can. So we just highlight that and delete it. And I'm going to do that. Excellent, and we'll just rely on our payment information being somewhere down here. So let me just delete this out, and in here we could type in something like a payment to bank account at 12. You get the idea there. At 121234 567800. There we go. Cool, and because I don't have the payment advice, I can bring my footer all the way down. Not required. Awesome. Save. Okay, so that's modifying your invoice. Now we've saved our invoice somewhere special, and what I want to do now is upload it. So we want to do that for our invoice, our statement, our quote, each of the different documents we're working with, but I like to do one at a time because it makes sure I've got something working before I go and make those same mistakes across my other documents. So now in the upload section, what you want to do is browse for invoice, and we're going to go and find that document that I saved, which was, I assume it was invoice. It was just invoice. Cool. And upload. So it's fine to do one at a time. Once it's uploaded, if it's uploaded successfully, you'll get a big green tick. If it doesn't upload successfully, that is probably because you've done something a bit unusual, like inserted a Excel spreadsheet or a very large image. Like if that might be a super high resolution image that we've just shrunk down really small. Finding things like that can sometimes break it at that import phase. So bear that in mind. Now it's time to test it. So if we open up any invoice by going to Accounts and Sales, if we click on Jacaranda here, we open up that invoice. When we go to print this invoice, we click Print PDF. We'll just leave that as is. Actually, correction, that'll use the old invoice template. Ooh, no, that's using the current invoice template. But I'll show you just to make sure that if we go to Invoice Options and Edit, because that template's at the top, that is now our default invoice whenever we tell it to print. But as you can see, under branding theme, that is now all BlueJ new design. So if I go to print that document now, we leave that as is, you will find a preview of the invoice that we've designed. So as you can see, my font hasn't carried through, and that's because there's only a limited number of fonts available inside the Xero library, and I'm going to include those in the document designer for you, so you can make sure you're sticking with the correct fonts. But other than that, it looks like our quantity came through correctly, and everything is transposing as we expected it to. So here I've got a big gap that where our Visa logo would be if we decided to have that, or our payment advice. Great, so that's how you test, and if there's anything you'd like to change about this, then we basically go back to our settings, invoice settings. What I like to do is, instead of sticking with the Word document I had, I might download a fresh version. It just makes sure that I'm downloading and uploading, and anything that changes in between doesn't get missed. So if I change this back to what we had was Arial or something, then we should be able to upload this again, save it, a new version if you like, and we'll upload that again. Here we go. Invoice, open, upload. It's really good to keep your different documents consistent as much as you can, so they're all the same sort of font, same sort of size, logos on the same side, that sort of thing. So let's get in and test this again. Sales, Jacaranda, here we go. And we'll click print. Right, leave as is. Nice. Cool, much better. That's not too bad. Excellent. Cool, I'm pretty happy with that. Sure, there's little things we can improve about that, but as you can see, it's quite different to the standard invoice template. So we can completely customize the data that is appearing in here, provided we can do it in a Word document. You can have it display in your Xero. So that was how to customize your Xero documents beyond the standard editing parameters that Xero provides. Using the document designer guide we provided and some of the sample templates perhaps, and a bit of know-how, you can make your Xero documents look almost any way you like. So hopefully you found that worthwhile, and I'll see you in the next session.